Thank you for joining this Kepler November 15th community meeting. So we want to get a few things sorted out in this meeting, mostly about the progress and issues we have made since the last 2 weeks. And I also want to plan out for what's going to do for the next week, for the next 2 weeks. So have this HackMD, I have the some agendas on HackMD, so you should be able to access this. The link is on the chat. Let's just spend the first 40 minutes, go through what the progress is and the issues. So I think one of the top issues is the VM support. So Pan has made some changes, and then last night, and we also tested a patch to enable the VM support. Now we see some of the stats over there. Do we have any other link? So that's true. The test is based on my environments. I have the CPU pass through. So that means we can read the performance counters from the CPU. I have not tested the case that do not have the CPU pass through. That's probably going to use a different model, the C group model. So Ken, do you think that is something we should, that should work? So without CPU pass through, is this going to work?
Actually, are just trying to deploy the Keplers on top of the VMs for the taste, and I found that there is some bug in the C groups package. I'm not sure is it solved in the main track or not because I'm working on our model dev branch, and I found that there is some change on the C group package, but I'm not sure that the one who did that already solved that or not.
Okay.
Yeah, but if the C groups matrix is properly read, I mean like available C group matrix is properly read, it should work. If like it's work with the counter, yeah.
Do you have the issue? Do you have a Bugzilla? Do you have GitHub issue? Is that something we can help you? Okay.
I haven't create that yet because I see like there are some people's already working on that. Because I think there is one GitHub issue mentioned that the C group's metric is not read, even if it's brought there. The problem is about the walk functions is not properly implemented. It's my fault, but yeah, I just debug it, but I'm not sure it maybe can debug by the other way, but I'm not sure who working on that.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's not solved, I will put the issue.
Thank you. So I think that is the okay, I think that is a good clean. Do we have any updates on the estimator? So how we're going to deploy the estimator sidecar? This is probably.
Is this a question to me or to?
Yeah, I think this is a question for to you and Kai as well, because none of us has deployed a sidecar before, the estimator sidecar before. Have we tested it?
I tested before. I mean, like in very early before every change, but after that I haven't done yet. But I will do soon, maybe next. I'm not sure, maybe this week.
Yeah, that's fine. If I'm going to test this, I think there's a deployment patch. What are the other things I need to know before I deploy the estimator sidecar? How do I know this will work?
Yeah, there is one remark is that I changed some config name to be like currently the estimator sidecar have its own name of the environment, but actually it should share the same config map with the Kepler. I changed that in estimator sidecar in the dev branch.
Okay.
If I confirm that this work, I will submit to you. But back to your questions, how could you confirm is that in the config map you have to set the estimators enable to true, and then yeah, and it should use the estimators, and you should get some values from the estimator sidecar.
Okay. See, that's like a debugging message I can see in the sidecar. That will tell me that the sidecar is working. Or maybe I can just add the information over there.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just add the information.
If it's not working, the container should die, right?
Right. It's just I don't know if the each time the inference request comes in, the sidecar will just respond the matrix correctly. But that is the infection I want to debug.
Yeah, you can. I think you can see the log of the estimators when the request is coming.
Thank you. So I just check that out today. Model server. Have anybody? So I think Sally is not here today. So Sally was working on the PR that's trying to get everything in the same consistent namespace, Kepler and model server and sidecar. Because previously the Kepler was in the monitoring namespace, and so are the sidecar and the model server. Now Kepler is in a different namespace. So there were some default values in model server and that needs to be changed. Though have not got that yet. So Kai, do you mind just get that started?
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I have a question. But the expectation is to have everything in the same namespace, right?
Yes, that will be the minimal restrictions. Because I think last time I was tested on OpenShift, and if the the model server and Kepler are in different namespace, they cannot switch each other. I think that's about. Any questions, follow-ups for the VM support and the integration?
I mean, I see a lot of issues also related to that. At least them below, and then we probably want to prioritize that later.
Okay, sure. Yeah, definitely. So Marcelo is not here today. So we had
I'm here.
Oh, you are here? Okay.
Yeah.
My scrolling is all right. It's the very last one. Cannot see you. So Marcelo, do you mind just share your experience with the usability? So I think some of the metrics are being requested about William. William is not here today. So he has some use cases to use in the aggregates metrics. So maybe we can just set up the process how to add these new metrics, so based on demand.
Not sure if I understood the question. So but I update the metrics document, and we have this new Grafana dashboard as well. It's still pending. It's to merge. The Grafana dashboard, so we can discuss that. We have a metric. We have a metric that's actually it's showing all the power consumption of all the source for the container. It means the power consumption of CPU, memory, GPU, and the other host components. And the Grafana dashboard is not using this metric. It's actually some. Maybe I think it's better to update that. So I will update that, and then we can have the new Grafana dashboard. So it will have the Grafana will have the examples of the queries. Anyway, I also put the document that the documentation of the metrics, examples how to use the metrics. And yeah, and if it's still like something missing, I will be glad to update the document more things.
Great. I think there's the usability. That's whenever user requests a new use case for aggregates metrics or new metrics, we consider two things. One is that should we implement this in Kepler, or should we just support this on Prometheus query? So the idea is if that becomes too heavily weighted on the Prometheus side, we support it on Kepler. Otherwise, the end user just creates their own query without any code change on Kepler side.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the first premise, like to have the separate metrics, and the user was aggregating them, sum them, different source. However, I forgot the name of who was using the metrics. He saw that.
Yeah, William.
Yeah. William. Yeah. So William saw that, you know, summing all metrics different in a huge query actually was not huge, a big query in Prometheus was actually using a lot of CPU, and then we create one metric that has the sum of everything already.
Okay.
I think the good part to have it separate. Okay, so we can discuss that later, you know, how we define the metrics. Maybe because the point is to have the source. It's also interesting, isn't it? Because, for example, if the user wants to know if where the application is using more energy, it's the memory, is the CPU, is the GPU. So of course we have the metrics separate, but maybe this metric that aggregates might be, maybe we include a label with the source. I don't know. We can redefine the design of the metrics later about that. So if we have this metric that's absolute and the user will not know the source, it's fine also, it's aggregation. Since we have other metrics, so the user can check that individually, isn't it? What's this energy consumption comes from. But we definitely need to have also the breakdown. Otherwise the user we don't know what's the source of the energy consumption.
Yeah. So I think that is very good discussion. So there's a use case based, and there also future proof metrics. So to have more detailed granularity, will support all these use cases. But there's the debate on performance versus usability. So which is the best balance we can achieve?
Yeah.
Now should we just move on to, for the sake of the time, let's just move on to the docs. So Peru and Pan, you have this discussion on the make docs versus Spinix versus Hugo.
Yeah, I mean, just we had three. Right now it's in Sphinx, but it seems it's not very easy for development because the RST preview is not as good as the Markdown. So we are thinking of moving to MKDocs, but then again, we also thought of seeing Hugo because that is what Kubernetes and all the major upstream uses. But again, Hugo also is not as easy for development as MKDocs. So the only reason why I started with Sphinx was because Sphinx provide API docs provision so that you can generate API docs, but MKDocs has also provided that plugin. So I think if we all agree that MKDocs is the way to go, I can merge all the PRs. I support MKDocs.
Okay. Any inputs for the? Yeah, I personally used Sphinx and Hugo on different projects. I haven't used MKDocs, so thanks Pan for the pointer. So if I think Peru did a lot of research on the comparisons between the three, and it looks like MKDocs has the best features and the ease of use. We can just write Markdown and convert the Markdown into HTML by MKDocs, and we can also have local development preview. I think that is a very good framework for us for the docs. So yeah, and we
just
have
one
PR
question.
from Ken.
Very naive question. So what was the problem with the Sphinx?
I think just generally people don't like the complex
the syntax
formatting. Yeah, and then it is hard. Like when you preview it, you don't see the exact formatting as you would see on HTML. It is slightly different. Like when you are previewing it in VS Code or any of ID. But I've also not used mkdocs. Why I find like testing Sphinx was easy because I know all the commands, so I could test the internal links that all the links are working and everything in the makefile. But I'm sure mkdocs also provides that. Pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. For me, it was also challenging to the preview. Actually, I was using an online tool to preview to see how it was.
Yeah, I installed a plugin. You have a plugin on VS Code that you
I
can
installed
install.
also, but it wasn't working very well. So yeah, then I use an online tool.
Even you do the preview is not exactly the same because it's changed. Is what converted to the GitHub page team, and
Right.
I also have a problem with the TOC stuff. I mean the tables of content stuff. It's very confusing. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation.
There's one more thing I would ask for the docs. So we, in other projects we did for microchips, we also have this a link. There's a link check-in that makes sure all the links in the HTML are working, not broken. So can we add that feature as well?
Yeah, like right now, our current doc has that feature. I do when I do the make, like I've added that command in the make file. I will obviously do that when we migrate to mkdocs.
Okay, the broken link check.
Yeah, but it actually mkdoc also report it in the warning as well if the link is not linked.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, when you do the serve and do the changes, will show in the warning.
Yeah, but to have a test that fails, if it might also be good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, we don't have like permissions to approve things on the, I don't have permissions for to approve things on the documentation for the Kepler doc. Maybe I don't know, maybe if you want to add me as approver, it's
definitely. But, whoever who wants to be the approver, I will add this after the meeting.
You can add me also as an approver.
Yeah, maybe me as well.
Yeah, just add your name here. I'm just the.
Okay. Yeah, another one.
I'm just paste the link again. So add your name here. Whoever want to be approver. Okay. All right, that's great. So I would love to hear some updates from operator. I know we have updates on the Helm as well. Let me just add that one.
Yeah, so I can give the update on the operator. Kai and I have been working on that. So yesterday we started with V1 Alpha 1 branch on the GitHub repository, and right now we have the, like I wrote the how I want the operator structure to be, like how it has to be divided into 3. So we have the main reconciler, and then we have 3 sub reconcilers. So I did all the abstractions and put the placeholder, and Kai can take that up now. So the plan is I would be working on Kepler exporter / collector, and Kai, who is more familiar with estimator and model server, so he would take that up, and we would be working simultaneously on this.
Great. Do you expect that we're going to have some type of preview in the next 2 weeks?
Oh, yes, definitely. At least we would have for the Kepler exporter. Like right now we are targeting only bare metal for the next 2 weeks. So you can see the bare metal at least.
Great, thank you. Right, we have a Helm PR today. Thank you. Jianping, are you around?
Yeah, this is Peng Hui speaking.
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I started the Kepler code, and I also work on the Helm chart, and today I dropped one PR for that. Currently, I'm testing it, and once it is ready, I will ask for review soon. And I do have one question about this Helm chart scope. Currently, I work for the Kepler exporter. Should we also consider the Prometheus and Grafana, or we only consider?
I think Prometheus and Grafana, they have their own Helm charts as well. So we don't need to have them. But I'm not so expert on Helm charts. Maybe you can define a dependency in Helm charts that requires Prometheus and Grafana. If they are available, then you can configure the service monitor and potentially also deploy the dashboard over there.
I will. Okay. Good tip. I can first finish Kepler exporter, and then I will continue with the Prometheus and Grafana.
Okay, that'd be great. Do anybody want to be a reviewer for the? Do you need anybody to review the Helm chart? Anybody want to be a reviewer?
I can look at it.
Probably ask it. Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, this is going to be the big topic. So for the next thing, I listed some items for the next 2 weeks focus. But if you have any other things to add, feel free to add them. So I'm working on the test coverage myself, and as Stan is also here, maybe we can just think up on what should be the package, which packages should be the focus for the next 2 weeks, so we can increase the test coverage. Right now we have 36% coverage. So like the goal is after this iteration, we have to get this bumped up to 50%. So I want to have the focused cases, which are the packages we should spend our time on next 2 weeks, so that we can increase the coverage.
I think the power package, they don't have tests, and those zones are simple, should be easy to implement. I think these are good candidates.
These are unit tests, yeah?
Yeah, simple unit tests. Yeah, exactly. The C group, I don't remember now if everything is covered, but might be also some simple. They are simple implementation, so it should be easy to implement some unit tests there. Test the functions, just test the functions. And so I think we can start with them. Try to go to the simple ones, and then we go for the more complex ones later. We are trying to include I think the complex ones has some tests already, but definitely needs to improve to get more tests. Yeah.
All right. So my test writing skill is not that great. I have not done any of the refactoring yet. I'm just simply adding some of the test cases to the package. But that's maybe that is advice or just a suggestion. If you are using GitHub Copilot, the unit test is trivial to implement. They still need some of the human interactions, but it's increased your productivity by quite a lot. So if you can have some quick test cases to implement by the Copilots, just go ahead and do it. And we'll ask them and the rest of the team to review and refactor later. But the simple thing is everybody can contribute to the test cases.
Yeah.
All right.
With the unit testing, I tend to just look and see what's been done and then sort of model what I do after that. So hopefully there are some examples, and there are some. You said that there was 30% coverage, so there should be something for me to look at. And
yeah, there are things on the code. I'm now trying. So for example, for the complex ones, I'm trying to put comments. especially, you know, things that we need to initialize, you know, it's not obvious. And I'm including a lot of comments in the code. There are some people that don't like comments in the code. I'm the pro of comments, especially for things that are not obvious, but we can discuss that later, you know, if about comments.
I do like to have comments so we can understand what is going on and what are the next phase discussions.
Okay.
So that is encouraged. Okay, the end-to-end test case. Hello?
Wait a minute. Before we move to end-to-end, I suppose for unit tests, one of some points make our life not so easier. It's about we depends on lots of system error, for example, file and some library, etc. So I don't know how to mock it. So it's an open question, but so far I go through some codes there and try to add some unit test.
Okay.
And I found some deep dependencies for, you know, from system level. So yeah, maybe an open question to how to mock them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. This mocking is definitely a bigger part to refactor.
Yeah. I think if we need to see examples. Kubernetes has some mocking, you know, and other projects. If we want to test the system, we need to check how they are implementing that.
Okay.
But in the end, what mocking means is you initialize variables or things that are in the library. So you force values in variables so that it's not collecting from the system. So
yeah, I think the C group and the power, these are things we probably unique to us. So there's definitely a certain marking process needs to be done. So if you can create these foundations, the rest of the test may go relatively easier.
The unit tests also, there's something. For example, we have now, I don't know if what's the best way to do that, okay? But just some experience with other projects. Now we have like we are initializing the unit tests in many packages, okay? So, but the Ginkgo framework, it has like focus tests. For example, when we are developing a unit test, we want to run only one test. We can do a focus, and then actually it will only run this test. But right now, since we have like it's kind of, we have many parallel unit tests. It's not only one thing. It's actually impossible to use the focus.
We can still run a focus test, right?
But it runs the other ones as well. It doesn't run only one. I don't know how. I didn't debug too much on that. I'm just saying that it's something that it's not working.
Have you tried the VS Code plugin there to get you more focus on specific test case?
Right. Yeah, but the code should work with the focus test, isn't it? So yeah.
Yeah, there's a command, and I tried that command when I was working on this unit test. I will send you the command later.
No, I mean, you know, describe, you can put the F describe, and then it's actually Ginkgo will focus on this task, but it's not working. So I use in other projects that, and actually, I'm just thinking that I think that the packets are being initialized in different ways. It's not the same route that it's starting all the unit tests. My assumption, okay? But I'm not sure about that.
Let's check out this later. I will check with Sam how to run the focus test. Thank you. So the E2E test, the test case, we have some very, we have actually have the framework to stand up the E2E, the test stand up the Kepler with kind cluster and run these queries on the endpoints. We have not get the unit test case yet, or basically end-to-end test case yet. So in my mind is we deploy workload on kind cluster and validate the parametrics with that workload. So this could be a sub.
Do we need to run workload? Because when we deploy Kepler is already a workload in it, so we can get the energy consumption of Kepler itself. Or
that's definitely right. So so there's two cases we need to test. One is that existing workloads can be detected. And the second thing is the new workloads, when they created, they can also be detected.
Right.
For
there's
this
definitely
one,
more cases.
For this one, I suppose currently the how to say the pinpoint for us, okay. I would say the blocker for us is about on GitHub agent, it provides with Ubuntu server. And if you remember our manifest about the deployment, we have to mount the eBPF library from the host instance to the container itself to make the container read the data.
Okay.
Yeah, so which means maybe first we need to build the BCC library in Ubuntu agent, and the second we need to, the mount path /lab/module maybe need to point to the BCC library we build, which as build result.
Okay. If we are able to deploy kind cluster, maybe that is not. Let's just check that out later. If we are able to deploy kind cluster and we run Kepler in the cluster, we may not need to have the host level lib module by mount. But to be honest, I have not run the kind cluster yet, so I do not have the definite answer to the question. So let's see what are the limitations. So Sam, do you have I think you already deployed the Kepler on the CI.
Yes.
Okay. So do you see anything we can add over there? So right now we just see the Kepler pod itself. Okay. So that's end-to-end.
Yes. So before we run the test case, or say even just after the cluster being set up, before we set up the cluster, we need to build the BCC library. What do you think?
Okay. The library, Ubuntu is becoming a challenge. I don't think we are able to build the package for Ubuntu. Let's see if you can run this in the containerized mode.
If running in container, okay. So I'm not sure, but I suppose Xichen raised some issue, across the engine, across the hypervisor, like running in the VM. So yeah, in the past we have those issues. So I just curious if we running as Docker in Docker, for example, what will be happen?
I have not checked it. That's a very good question.
I think nested Docker, if it's properly configured, should be fine. But I think GitHub is a VM, isn't it? It's not. I'm not sure, but I think it's not a Docker container that we are running. It's a VM. We can double check that.
If I understand correctly, Huamin just want to, run a container for maybe Fedora to avoid build BCC library for on Ubuntu for Kepler. Yeah, so which means as GitHub action provide us only with Ubuntu OS, we go to start a Fedora in Docker. And the second, then running current CI as create can cluster, etc. in a Docker container for Fedora OS. So it adding a Docker in Docker question.
So if we create the kind cluster and we deploy Kepler, is it doesn't work?
The kind is a VM, right?
Well, the most problem is that
I think actually kind of runs in containers. So
yeah, kind is a container. It's not a VM. It's Docker. Kubernetes in Docker, so it's obviously a container.
And it's configured nested Docker without any problem. So
what are the limitations of the kind? Do we have any? It does some host level dependency?
Well, from my test locally, with some VM for Ubuntu system, the major, I would say the most case I face issue as fail to load the BCC library. Yeah, so that's a question to the BCC library.
Okay.
But it's running directly to the bare metal. And if you're running the container, do you still have the problem? I'm using an Ubuntu machine and with kind, and it's working for me. So we can discuss that offline. So and see, if you can create a issue, Sam, and we will try to debug that. What's the problem?
Okay, I can create an issue and share it with you for some detailed informations.
Great, thank you.
Exactly. So what you are running, how you are configuring things, and then we can check what I'm doing in my environment that it's working.
That's great.
I'm going to create some samples and show you with guests.
Thank you. Maybe we can just use the rest of the time to go through each of the column owners and also project captain, release captain, to see what you have found and what's your plan for the next 2 weeks. If I don't mind, I can just go to Chan.
Yes, sure. I also list the issues and PRs I see related in the HackMD.
Okay.
Okay, we scroll down in the HackMD.
You mean HackMD? Okay.
Yeah.
Which one?
Are we updating the same document?
Yeah. Are you saying you are? Oh, okay. At the end.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I see some PRs and issues related to the basic feature, and then could the owner of the PR explain a little bit, and then we can start with the issue, right? Could the owner of the issue explain it a little bit, and let's just give it a priority.
So 302, you have a.
This is from.
Yeah. So Ji-Chun is not here today. But I think the issue is very early, there was a PR to distinguish the deployments on bare metal and virtual machine. But Jason said there's a better way to do it, so we can detect it within the VM. But I think that is a gap of understanding, because we can support both VMs as well as bare metal. It's just somehow that the models going to be used are different. So once the models on VMs are ready, the process on the VM is ready, we do not have to distinguish VM or bare metal. So that's why I said,
okay.
Yeah, we don't need it at the moment. So Pam and Marcelo, you have also commented on the PR. Do you have any other inputs?
No, I think it's exactly what you said. So we shouldn't detect if it's a VM or not. Just try to run the model that it's possible.
I'm just close it.
Yeah, then we should close it.
Okay. The next one, 384.
384.
Local model server. Okay, this one I'm not quite sure if we are ready get it ready right now, because at the moment Jason wants to enable model server
as an endpoint, right?
Yeah. So sorry.
Yeah.
he want to. Sorry. Go ahead, Pan.
Yeah, I'm thinking like we should remove the condition here, because in the init estimate functions, it will already check that if the model server endpoint is enabled or not by the config, and if it's not, it will like mark this is like invalid, as it will never call the model servers.
Okay.
Yeah, so this logic is in the other place. Over here we should like first try.
Okay.
Yeah, we had the problem before that when model server was not enabled, it was still trying to connect, and it was taking a lot of time, to run tests or to start. That's why I include this here. But if it tests later on and it doesn't try to connect if it's not configured, then it's fine. We can remove that.
Yeah, the logic is moved to another place, so that it can be like easier to track.
Thank you. Okay, next one. Okay, the next one is 388. Yeah, so this is the one Pan and I discussed last night. So, all right, I can merge it. So let's just say, so once we close the next one, 375. Okay, I think this is this probably goes the same way as we have just discussed earlier. There's going to be some certain documentation and a certain education.
So we don't need this issue?
No, I think this is going to be a bigger issue. It's not going to be fixed.
Regarding to this, I already prepared some draft, as I mentioned in the Slack, the draft of the environment name on the config map that we are going to do, and I would like to have discussion on that as well. I will put that in maybe discussions of the GitHub project, and then you can make a modification so that we can align with the same name, and then with the Kepler operators can work on that, because Kepler operator will be the one who create this config map and make everything connected. And of course, in the Kepler code, it have to be updated to use the config map as well.
Okay. Sounds good.
Should that be what level? Urgent, medium, low?
That would be
Maybe-
urgent because
yeah.
Kepler operator depends on that.
Okay.
Chen, do you mind just update the label?
Yes, I will do that.
Thank you. 665. All right, this one we had early discussion. So so I think there's two issues. One is that's how we're going to support the new use case matrix use cases, and what's the flows of making this happen. Should we support it as a basic matrix and with the aggregation as Prometheus, or should we just aggregate at the Kepler level? And how to qualify the impacts on usability as well as the scalability. So Marcelo, do you mind just start with a talk about this process? What's your visions to support them? What's the use cases? How are we going to support the use cases? And what's the development and testing workflow when we add new metrics?
Sorry, you mean create a document for what?
Just for the use case, if your people have new use case for metrics, and what should be our acceptance criteria? So are we going to accept this the new use case as writing a new metrics, or are we going to support it through the Prometheus query? And if you are doing on either of these ways, what are the development flows and what's the validation criteria to make this happen?
Right. So I would say like the first thing is to propose a new design. You know,
Okay.
if someone needs a new metric, I think it might be a design proposal, because especially a new metric, it depends on if it's a simple metric, just aggregation of things, it's fine. But if it's, for example, it's a new energy metric, or let's think about that, it will impact other components as well, isn't it? So I think definitely need some design proposal.
Just wondering, this should also be like part of enhancement. So if we have like a general enhancement template, people can create a Kepler enhancement proposal using those template.
Okay. Let's just we will just follow up this one so this could be a enhancement, I suppose that, and we will follow up on the Slack. I just follow that in the Slack for now.
Okay.
This one is
Is that still an urgent issue?
this could be it's not so urgent. So enhancements maybe high priority or just medium priority.
Yeah, that's definitely not urgent because we are taking urgent for this quarter.
Yeah, anything urgent needs to be done by this quarter.
Yeah.
Okay. I think this is a good point to discuss that we are going to support ARM eventually, maybe next quarter. So wrapper won't be available. So the VM and the ARM will be the same case. So what are the best ways to support power metrics?
But I will put it a low priority.
Yeah, for next quarter it will be high priority, but this quarter we're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
How large is the effort?
Well, that's going to be, I think it's going to be X large, because if you are going to support VMs as well as ARM in the same framework, it's going to be, we have to discuss this and run a lot of unit tests and design spec.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I put X large for all the 3 items.
Yeah, they keep us busy. Okay. So the BPPF container dependency.
Oh, right. So when I was refactoring, maybe I can go quickly on that. So when I was refactoring all the code, again, because everything was a little bit, getting big and hard to understand. And then I was refactoring things, splitting it in different smaller functions to be easier to read and put comments in the code. And I realized that even though we include a lot of logic to run without BPF, actually we are still very dependent of BPF. What I mean, the component that it's responsible to identify new containers, it's the BPF. So it's when we see like updates in the hardware counter or the CPU time. Let's say the node doesn't have hardware counter, should have CPU time. Okay. If this is the way that a new container is identified when it's an update on this metric, and then we update the map. If BPF is not running, we will not find any container that is running the node, because we are not searching for new containers if it doesn't have an update in the metric. So then I realized that we cannot run without BPF right now. And if we want to support this use case, run without BPF, we need to identify running pods, running containers outside BPF. We can discuss like the best way to do that, the less overhead, and don't have like specific answer for that, but it's just an issue that we have. Or we support BPF always, because we saw some discussion to change the BPF to lib BPF needs. So I didn't follow up too much on this topic, sorry, but like Cillian is doing, so that BPF will always run, isn't it? To avoid problems with BPF. And even though if we don't have hardware counter, we can have CPU time, so we can always have like BPF. So we need to check. We need to choose with how we are going to approach them.
So is that a testing you want to add, or it's just checking if BPF is running correctly?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Alternative, is that implementing an alternative, or is that just a checking? You want to implement alternative implementations on hardware counters?
Not hardware counters. It's like we have different modules to update metrics right now. And in one module, it's the source that identifies containers. And this is the BPF. So we have like cgroup metrics, but we only run check the cgroup metrics after we run a BPF that actually initialize the map with the containers. So the cgroup, when we run cgroup metrics, we already have the container IDs. Okay. So the function that actually runs and finds new containers, new pods, it's the BPF. So if the BPF is not running, we will not identify any container that is running in the node. Although some people can run and see metrics there, it's because we initialize the map, the container map in the beginning of the execution of the Kepler, and then after that it doesn't update anymore if BPF is not running. Okay. So then my proposition here is, or we fix the BPF issues that it's not running sometimes, but it should always run, or we find other ways to identify containers when the BPF is not running.
Yeah. So let's just find the use case first, and whether I think each eBPF should be supported. If it's not supported, we see what are the use cases that BPF cannot be deployed or just cannot be supported, and we go through that path once we find the use case. Okay, the very last one, actually we are close to the end of the meeting. So 349, this is end-to-end validation, integration and validation. I currently using the Ansible playbook to have this thing deployed and validated. It's still work in progress. So for if you are Ansible experts who want to have a quick look, this is what we have right now. You probably ask a question, why do I not use in like just for example operator or Helm charts? I think this is for deployments. Helm charts are not operator for deployments. The Ansible can just it's a quick hack. You can run everything through the playbook. So that's what I'm using right now. By the way, I also use the Copilot to run the playbook. It's quite convenient. Let's just switch over to the testing.
Huami, just to what are the priorities of those two last items? Are you?
Oh, that's the 364. We are going to have a medium discussion, medium to low level discussion. 349. That is urgent because we need to have end-to-end testing, deploy everything, and other testing ready.
Okay, and help wanted, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll add the label.
So if you can have quick minutes updates from testing, that'd be great. So Sally?
Yeah, I have another meeting at 9. I have to run.
Okay, maybe next time we can just start with you first.
We'll start with the testing, yeah. And I really would love to meet with you, Waman, to make sure I have the OpenShift manifests working correctly, because I haven't been able to get them to be non-zero. So maybe later today.
That's good.
Yeah, just add me in that meeting whenever you have the meeting.
Okay, I'll talk to you all later.
Thanks so much. I know this kind of rush, and thanks for taking this time with us. And we're going to see each other next time in 2 weeks.
Yeah, just last comment here. So, I mean, I just update, the performance test, and I did also the memory profiling, and I found like 2 functions that they were that introduced the most overhead, so that we need to work on that. But we can discuss that later,
Yeah, you should write us a rice paper so we can all follow up your process.
Yes. I wrote I create like a discussion issue in Kepler, so for that.
Oh, that's even better. So keep it on the record. That's really great. All right, nice to see you, everybody, and have a good day and evening.
Okay, you too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.